Hi, everybody. I want to talk today about childhood trauma. Many of you have been asking me to share more about how childhood trauma affects us later in life and to hear more about my story. I just want to warn you that there is going to be some serious talk about suicide and about severe depression and anxiety. And if you have little ones around or if you are in a place where that's going to affect you, I invite you to press stop and come back at a later time. So, childhood trauma is something that has dramatically affected my life in a major way. And I'm going to tell you more about how it affected me when I started realizing it and how it still affects me today. I'm your host, Matt Gerlach, and welcome to my podcast, Matters of the Mind, Rise to Your Worth. I help high performers, high achievers, just like me, live a life of alignment and fulfillment and abundance. And like me, a lot of people I work with used to push themselves in directions that didn't feel right because they were afraid of losing things. They were afraid of scarcity. They were driven by scarcity. And I have spent the past 9 years on a healing journey, and I have changed everything about my life. I have also learned to roll with the punches, and that childhood trauma, the effects of childhood trauma, have remained with me. My journey began, most of you have heard it, so I'm not going to go give the full story. But about 9 years ago, I started having horrible anxiety and depression and panic attacks that led me to realize, after years of therapy and yoga teacher training, reading, talking to anybody who would listen, coaches, I realized that what was happening was that deep down, I didn't love myself. I had, which is surprising to most people who knew me, because on the outside, I appeared to be quite confident. Like many of you, I was very successful in my career, but on the inside, I had huge massive holes inside me because I didn't love myself. Deep down, I thought something was wrong with me. I was always told growing up that something was wrong with me. I'd been accused of being very selfish. I'd been accused of a lot of things. And on the journey, I'll never know, but I'm sure that I had several therapy sessions where I was told that what was happening was because of childhood, and I didn't hear it until David and I were in a couples therapy session, and the couples therapist said, "Matt, tell David what you need. Tell David what you need." And she kept pushing and pushing, and I loved her, so she did nothing wrong. We were very close, and she thought that I was further along on my journey than I was. I guess we all did. And then I just burst out in tears because I said that I can't express my needs. I'm afraid that if I do, he's going to leave me because my needs have always been very inconvenient for others, and I was punished relentlessly for my needs. I had memories growing up of, being very, very severely punished for my expression of needs, and left in my bedroom alone. The blinds would be shut and it would be light out, and just left to cry and soothe myself alone. And I think about it a lot. I'm a 41-year-old man. If somebody did that to me today at 41, I would be a absolute mess. And can you imagine what that's like for an 8 or 10-year-old child, however I was, and however many times that was the reality for me? It stuck with me. There's a Brené Brown quote from one of her books, and when I stumbled upon this, everything became clear for me. I'm going to look away from the camera for a moment while I read this. Even in the context of suffering, poverty, violence, human rights violations, not belonging in our families is still one of the most dangerous hurts. That's because it has the power to break our heart, our spirit, and our sense of worth. This is Brené speaking. It broke all three for me. And when those things break, there are only three outcomes, something I've borne witness to in my life and my work. Number one, you live in constant pain and seek relief by numbing it or inflicting it on others. Number two, you deny your pain, and your denial ensures that you will pass it on to those around you and down to your children. Or 3, you find the courage to own the pain and develop a level of empathy and compassion for yourself and others that allow you to spot hurt in the world in a unique way. Brene goes on to say that she was doing the first 2 until, by the grace of God, she realized that the third path was the path towards healing. And that has been similar to me. You know, I didn't remember a lot about my childhood. I mean, there's a thing called dissociation where we dissociate to protect ourselves. If somebody is in the midst of being violated, whether it be sexually or physically, we dissociate. We spiritually, we mentally, we emotionally leave our body and leave it for somebody else to abuse. And I read so many books, and it's so interesting that I see that so many people that have had traumatic childhoods have memories of their childhood. I don't really have memories of most of my childhood. I've gotten a few of them back, several of them I've gotten back, but I mean, it feels like, looking at the ages from 0 to 10, I mean, I feel like I maybe remember 2 or 3 hours collectively. And same true for the rest of my life. I mean, like Brene said, I mean, we live in constant pain and seek relief by numbing it. And I found alcohol, and that was a big part of my life. And it never got like out of control or anything like that. But alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, I mean, dissociation, keeping busy. Like, I don't know what the hell I was doing all the time, but I don't really remember much about college, much about high school. I mean, it's just like I'm around friends that I knew then. And it's just like, Matt, remember this? I'm like, nope, don't remember that. And, when I look back to my life and how I remember, like what I remember of my really my entire life up until this healing journey began about 9 years ago at this point, I just always thought something was wrong with me. And when it's like, when somebody is sad, when somebody's hurt, when I was hurt, and my caretakers, the adults in the room, aren't taking blame for it. Nobody's saying they're sorry for it. No one's coming back later and making sure that the child is okay. We just blame ourselves. And that blame stayed with me my entire life. It wasn't until, it wasn't that long ago, a few years ago, that I was still saying that, there was no question that everything in my life that was wrong was my fault. And I think that's admirable, to take responsibility for one's actions. But it also leaves you in a place where you're not able to ask for help because you've asked for help and it's been denied. And you start performing, you start embracing perfectionism, and you're afraid to fail, you're afraid to upset anybody. Because when you do, you're punished. And when you show that you need something and you get punished for it, you're expressing yourself the best you can. As adults, we express ourselves the best we can. I mean, we get angry and we do things that are wrong sometimes. And we're doing the best we can. And imagine, as an adult, I'm making this up, but someone very close to you passes away and you're angry and you throw something, you pick up a pillow and throw it against the wall. Like, imagine if your partner came in and like kicked you because you were showing anger. That's the traumatic childhood that a lot of us have. Things like that happened. And we're all just doing the best we can to express ourselves. When I think back to when my life started to send me these wake-up calls, I was really, really hard on myself. And I thought that I had done something really wrong. And this was the world, God, the universe, whoever it is, repaying me, karma, repaying me. And I was numbing that pain. And I didn't have any compassion for myself. And a big part of this journey was gaining compassion for myself. That might be the journey, is gaining compassion and learning to love myself, learning to embrace myself with imperfections. And these next few episodes, I'm going to be talking about this. I think it's really important. I don't think enough people talk about this, and you know, I'm not really sure how I made it through. Like when I look at other people, I have a lot of clients right now that have shared their stories with me, things that have happened during their childhood. I mean, and this is not meant to be like, there's no ranking of anything, just to be clear. But when I think of like what I had endured versus when I work with people who are debilitated by something that was, and I hope this is coming out right. I'm not trying to diminish anything, but it's just like when I look at what I've endured and I see what other people have endured and how it's affected them, I guess, there was some sort of resilience, detachment, dissociation that just kept me from feeling it all. And, I just, like, I think back to my life and just like how many times, this is the part that is, probably a little more censored, is just like, I wanted to end my life for parts of my life. And I've been thinking a lot about that and just like where that stemmed from. And it stemmed from a deep feeling of brokenness, and that there was no help, that there was no help. If I made a mistake, or God forbid, I became ill and needed help financially paying for my bills, there just wasn't any. I feared that. I just remember thinking so vividly that the only way out of this, if something got bad, would be to just end my life, because there was no help. So, I think what I'm trying to say here is a couple of things. I want to kind of give a conclusion to how this journey sort of went for me. Along the journey, there was a few like big mountains I had to climb. And one of them was self-forgiveness. One of them was setting boundaries. And one of them was learning that I just deserve to be happy, and that something wasn't wrong with me, and that my intuition, my desires, there was nothing wrong with me, and that I was allowed to be me. On my healing journey, the first, I kind of call it like a healing journey that turned into a growth journey. The first 4 years, I would say, were like a healing journey. I was very fortunate. I had a general doctor who took an abnormally kind interest in my emotional health. And he would spend like 45 minutes with me every session. And you better believe I was in there all the time. I just needed help, and I just needed help. And, I kept taking these mental, emotional, behavioral assessments. I'm not sure what they would fall under exactly. And, Matt, things aren't great. What's going on? Tell me what's going on. And I tell him. I was always very vulnerable. I mean, I had to be. I don't think I'd be here right now if I didn't learn how to just be honest about what was going on and how I was feeling. And that's why, if you were to ask my method of healing and how I work with my clients right now in terms of helping them build their lives after working through some trauma, and it's introspection. It's learning to listen to ourselves. It's learning to be honest with ourselves. And it's learning to trust our memories and our versions of our stories over those who our truth might be inconvenient for, or those, quite frankly, who also dissociated and don't remember the facts. But as I went back, I started writing a book. I'm writing a book. It's getting close to being complete. I that's where I gained a lot of the memories back about my childhood. I was honest, and I just let the pen, or well, the keyboard and my fingers, the pen also. I have stacks of journals as well, but I just really let myself be honest about what I remembered. And I started to see, I started to realize as I shared it with my therapist. I was in therapy. I mean, God, there was times that I was in therapy, 4 or 5 hours a week. And I started to see that, I started to learn rather, that, that the way that the depression and the anxiety and the suicidal ideation, quite frankly, was all because of being made to feel that I was a worthless piece of shit. And I had to do the work to realize that there's nothing wrong with me and there's nothing wrong with you. There are things that are wrong in some of our lives. And that's why when I heard this quote, my blood turned cold and I stopped in my tracks and like fell to my knees and cried. When I heard the first time, a lot of you have probably heard this, but it's not your fault what happened to you, but it's your responsibility to heal. I had never seen or heard of anybody healing. I had always heard of, well, that's why they are the way they are because their childhood was rough. I'd never heard that anyone was responsible to heal themselves and take care of themselves. And I took responsibility and I healed. And I mean, just to be clear, I don't know if it's a healing journey or a growth journey. Some people say you're never healed. I agree with that. I also don't say that you need to be on a healing journey forever. And it kind of turns into a personal growth journey and just a consistent desire to be better, to do better. And the doctor, I kept going and going and going. And finally, I walk in there one day and he said to me, he's like, Matt, what's going on? And I'm like, I know, I did okay on the test. And he's like, you did great on the test. What changed? And then I thought about it for a moment and I said, I learned to love myself. And then he looked at me. He, I think, put his hand on my shoulder and just said, imagine if you could bottle that up. There is so much self-hatred in the world. If you could bottle that up and sell this, it'd be worth billions of dollars. That's the journey. So I don't think everybody listening, all of you, have had an experience like mine where things got so bad for you, but it's our responsibility to love ourselves. It's our responsibility to learn to cultivate that love because we can only love others as much as we love ourselves. We can only respect others as much as we respect ourselves and trust others as much as we trust ourselves. And I've learned to listen to my feelings. And I've also realized it is a healing journey in some respect because it's not over. There's a lot that's coming up for me right now as David and I are taking the leap into parenthood. I'm in a transitionary phase. I left $1 million a year paycheck this year because I wasn't fulfilled. And I'm navigating through while building my coaching business and becoming a writer, becoming a speaker, becoming a podcaster, becoming a thought leader, sharing my journey, developing frameworks to help people work through what I worked through so they can also build abundant and beautiful lives and not be slaves to the corporate lives if they don't want to be anymore. I care deeply about you living an authentic life that you are in love with, that makes you feel good, that allows you to come home and be the best version of yourself to your family members, your roommates, your kids, whoever it might be. It's your responsibility to heal. It's your responsibility if you're having communication problems with your spouse or your colleagues or people at work. It's your responsibility to reach out and say, I need some help working through this. It's also your responsibility to reach out and say, I'm scared. I don't know how to work through this. That's why I am here. I am trying, I've been blessed with this superpower of vulnerability, and I hope it's resonating, sharing my journey and just letting you see like that this is a journey, and it's like, it's so imperfect. And the only way I know to get through it is by just being honest about it, just being honest and sharing what's going on, because I know we are all going through things, every single one of us, and none of us have all the answers. And that's it. It's just admitting that we don't have all the answers and we need help. Like, we all need help in areas of our lives, whether it be getting a job, whether it be managing new responsibilities of being a parent, whether it be like thriving in a job, starting a business. We all need help. And I just want you to know that like, this is the journey of life, and it's okay to ask for help. On these next few episodes, I'm going to dive into the what I talked about, the self-forgiveness piece, the boundary setting, and really the self-love, the living in abundance. Those are the three things that I want to share more about what I've learned, and hopefully it helps you out. I'm going to leave you here today. If you have any questions or comments, I would be honored to serve you and help you. And if you have a friend or a family member that can benefit from this, I would be so grateful if you helped me share my message. I'd love feedback. If there's something that I said that resonated, something that you want me to go deeper in, please let me know. I care so deeply about this because I know how it's affected my life, and I'm going to go a little deeper in this. But yeah, man, on this journey right now, a lot is coming up, and I want to share it. And just we're all going through things. When I look at my journey, the person who saved me the most, who helped me the most, was an author named Glennon Doyle. After Brene Brown showed me that my what happened in my family, not belonging in my family, was largely the reason that I am the way I am, Glennon showed me the way. We just be honest and share our messy lives and the reality of this human experience. If you have any questions, reach out. If you go to my website, at the very top of it, you can download my 6-step guide. It is a workbook that helps you start thinking about what you'd like your life to look like and naming what's in the way. And there's a link in there to schedule a free 45-minute coaching session with me. It would be my honor to work with you or to talk with you. Thank you for joining me today, and I wish you very well.